So in my last video, I got a question about how to solve or how to find the direction of an impulse, okay? So in this video, I'm going to solve a question, a past paper question to explain, to answer this question because I can't really answer it without a question, okay? So I have a question here. This is from the website that I mentioned in my previous video. The question is from June 2013, and this is Edexcel, as you can see here. The question is that particle P has mass 3 kilograms and particle Q has mass m kilograms. Now I'm gonna draw as I read the question, and it's very important that you draw a diagram as you read the question, because that will make it very easy for you to solve the question, because you'll have the problem in form of a diagram right in front of you. That's my number one tip to solve questions in mechanics. It's very important to have the diagram in front of you. So the particles are moving in opposite directions along a smooth horizontal plane when they collide directly. So because they are colliding, so they are moving in the opposite directions like this. Okay, it could be this, the Q could be on right and P could be to the left, opposite as well, but then they would never collide. So that's why I'm taking it like this. Okay, so they're moving towards each other. The masses are also mentioned. P is 3 and Q is m. So I'm just going to write down P is 3 kilograms and Q is m kilograms, okay? Now, as you can see, the question is, here. Immediately before the collision, the speed of P is 4 meters per second and the speed of Q is 3 meters per second. So this is u, okay? So because the speed before the collision, we take it as u, and the speed afterwards, we take it as v. So here I'm just going to write it as, what was the speed? It was 3. So I'm just going to say this one is 3 meters per second. Let me make sure that it's correct. No, it's 4, I'm sorry. Yep. P is 4 and Q is 3. So here it's 4, and this one is in this direction, and it's 3 meters per second. In the collision, the direction of motion of P is unchanged, and the direction of motion of Q is reversed. So after the collision, this diagram is for before, and now we've got a diagram for after. I could draw it here. After, what we have is we have P, the same thing. We've got Q. We've got the same masses, 3 kilograms, m kilograms. It's mentioned that P is unchanged. So that means that P moves in the same direction that we took previously. It is this direction. And Q is reversed. So Q is now moving in this direction. And another thing that I forgot to mention is that when you're solving these questions, you must take a certain direction as positive. That is how you will find the direction of impulse or the direction of the final speed that you find out depending on what question you have. So here I'm just going to write it down here, that I'm taking towards the right as positive. I hope you can see this. It's on the top left corner of my screen. So the towards right is positive. So when we plug these values into our equation, we're going to take this 4 meters per second as positive and this 3 meters per second as negative, because it's opposite to the direction that we took as positive, okay? So that's a main point. Now Q is reversed immediately after the collision. Okay, this is done. Immediately after the collision, the speed of P is 1 meters per second and the speed of Q is 1.5 meters per second. So the directions, we have drawn the directions. I'm just going to label the speeds here, so 1 and 1.5. So this one is now 1 meters per second, and this one is 1.5 meters per second. Now in part A, they're asking us to find the magnitude of the impulse exerted on P in the collision. So if you know the formula of impulse, it is the change in momentum. So, and momentum is the mass times the velocity, right? So impulse is mv minus mu. And they're asking exerted on P in the collision. So the impulse is the same for both of them. The impulse exerted on P and the impulse exerted on Q would be the same. But what we're going to do is, because they're asking us about P, so we're going to take the initial and final speeds of P and the mass of P. And they're asking about P because they have not given us the mass of Q, so we can't really find it. So that's why we're just considering P here. Now, mass of P is 3. 3 times V is the final speed, remember this, and U is the initial speed. So mv minus mu, that's how the formula is. So you're going to write down 1 meters per second here. So it's 1, and it is positive 1 because it's in the positive direction. Minus m, again, we've got 3, and then U is 4 meters per second. So it's 3 minus 12. So what we have is negative 12 minus 3 is 9. So the impulse is negative 9. Now you can see that it's negative. As I mentioned previously, that if the answer is negative, it means it's going in the opposite direction to the positive direction that we took. And if it's positive, that means it is in the same direction that we took as positive. So here we know, because the answer is negative 9 Newton seconds, that's the units of impulse, because it's negative 9, we know that the impulse is towards left. So that, I hope that answers your question. That's how you find the direction of impulse. But as you can see in this question, they're just asking us the magnitude of the impulse, not the direction, okay? The magnitude is always positive. So for the final answer, you must write that the magnitude of impulse is 9 Newton seconds, okay? So that's the magnitude. Coming back, let's complete the question. In part B, they're asking us find the value of m. Now, as I mentioned before in this part, for part A, I mentioned that the impulse will be the same. If the impulse exerted by Q on P is 9, the impulse exerted by P on Q would also be 9, okay? Q is exerting an impulse here, so it's in this direction, it's 9, and the impulse on Q would be in this direction, and it would be 9. So here it would be positive 9. Now I'm just going to say that I equals, and this is for Q, okay? So you can write down for Q, I equals mv minus mu. I, we already know, is 9, and we're going to take positive 9 because the impulse on Q would be towards the right. That's common sense because P is hitting Q towards the right. Q goes towards the right, so that's why the impulse is towards the right. I hope it's clear. So m, we don't know. M is unknown. I'm just going to take m as a common factor and write v minus u inside the brackets. V is 1.5 and it is positive, minus u, because u is 3 towards the left, so we have to write negative 3 here. So it's minus negative 3, okay? So we have, let me just write it down here, 9 equals m, and then 1.5 minus 3, which means it's 1.5 plus 3, which is 3, 4, and 4.5. And then we can find m equals 9 divided by 4.5. I don't have my calculator right now, so I'm just going to do it by hand. So I can say that 4.5 is 9 by 2, okay? So this would be 9 times 2 by 9, and it is 2 kilograms. So that's the mass of Q. I hope it answers your question. If you have any other questions, please comment down below. And thank you for watching.